Welcome to the Land Your Bet Sports Betting Show. Game 3, baby. We are back in Dallas, down 2-0 for the Mavs, obviously. I'm going to be looking at some projections and early best bets here as I record this Tuesday morning for you guys for this Game 3 game on Wednesday. Also going to have WNBA up. That is up for Tuesday already. Also going to be putting up Wednesday's WNBA slate as well here tonight on Tuesday, so you guys can get ahead of some of that stuff for the W on Wednesday. Looking really good so far, up 4 units in the early WNBA season, I should say, and still up more than 40 units year to date in the NBA. All that's rolling on the bottom line. Make sure you jump back in the live stream as well. 5 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday, 3 hours before tip. We'll go through all the stuff you guys have. You bring your bets, jump in the comments. I'll have a guest on there as well, and we'll go through everything together and touch every single player prop we can. For now, let's jump right into what I have already for Game 3. Want to quickly go over some Game 2 takeaways and a little bit of a combo between Game 1 and 2 from what we've seen now in these first 2 games of the series. And the first thing I'm looking at here is that center rotation for the Dallas Mavericks. Daniel Gafford, I incorrectly projected would go under and stay under on his minutes, but he ended up seeing about 23 minutes in this last game, outminuted both Kleber and Derek Lively, who Derek Lively was not made for this either of the first 2 games of the series, to be honest with you. Whether he was fouling, turning the ball over, etc., did not provide much for them. And Kleber didn't really make any of his shots. Gafford was out there for the majority of the time in the second half that they had a big on the floor. And I think they'll keep going back to bigs. I just don't think we can rely on any of these centers, specifically the main 2 between Gafford and Lively. I don't think you can really rely on their minutes moving forward. We're really seeing Jason Kidd deciding who's going to play in the latter stages of the game based on how they played in the earlier parts of the game. So he's just riding the hot hand. Gafford was terrible in Game 1, much better in Game 2. So he saw the minutes and the fourth quarter minutes, most importantly, where they're sort of separating how many minutes each guy gets by who plays more at the end of the game, right? So I'm not positive who's going to be doing that anymore for them. I'm staying away from any of the Lively or Gafford bets for right now. I know we'll have a big on the floor for Dallas at all given points of the game, but I just don't know which one it's going to be more often than not. So Kyrie, obviously a huge storyline here. 13 for 37 in the first 2 games. Ain't going to cut it. Had a really good first quarter, put up 8 points, and then just fluttered away for the rest of the game. And they really need him in the second half because Luka is dominating the first half. Had 20 in the first half of this last game. In the first 15 minutes of the first half, he had those 20 points. So he just slows down, right? Like Luka's probably a little bit hobbled, runs out of gas a little bit, but really relies on Kyrie to be that sort of closer for this team and bring it in the second half. And he has not. I cannot imagine Kyrie has a third bad game in a row. I'm a little bit gun shy on betting on him, but just make sure we're keeping an eye on how he plays in this one. And then the bench, huge for Boston, outscoring Dallas's bench by 10 points per game now. Only had 9 points from Dallas's bench here in Game 2. That's really why we see this number so there's such a big gap between these 2 benches right now. And then Tatum and Brown. I wanted to talk about them briefly as well because they're driving a ton. 26 drives to the hoop for Tatum in this last game, 23 for Jaylen Brown. So they're both attacking at will, but because you see at least one big who's a really good shot blocker between Gafford and Lively on the floor at any given time, these dudes have had to defer and pass off of those drives a lot more. So before you think that this Tatum assist game was sort of an anomaly, consider that maybe he won't get 12 assists on just 13 potentials in this next game. Not sure that we can count on Boston's guys hitting as many shots for him off of that drive, but he'll still have the potential assists up between 12 and 15 once more. So I think assists is another good look for Tatum in this one. For Brown, I'm going to keep going with him on points. We'll talk about that here in one of these best bets. Going right back to Luka with the same game parlay that we've now used for him about 4 games in a row, dating back to the last series against Minnesota. And if it ain't broke, I'm not trying to fix it. So 30 points, 8 boards, 3 threes. That now gets you minus 101 on FanDuel, putting a full unit on that. As long as I'm getting even money on this bet, this is something that's happened now 90% of the time of his last 12 games where he's finally gotten healthy and feeling really good, as we know. 30 plus points in 7 of his last 9, 10 plus boards, not even counting the fact that I only need 8, 10 plus boards in 10 of his last 12 games. 8 plus boards is slightly better percentage as well. And then the 3 threes, I mean, shoot, man, he's had 3 threes in the first half of the last 6 games. So that feels like another guarantee right there. Put all three of those together, you get basically even money for Luka to do what he's been doing. Do not see the shots dwindling for him. Still going to be between 25 and 30. Still going to be between 10 and 13 3-point attempts. To make three of those is a 30% clip. That's something that he can do easily. He's shooting 43% from deep over the course of his last 12 games. So we know that he's still very capable of this. We're still getting even money. Let's go right back to it for a full unit. Foreshadowed, we are going to Jaylen Brown points, and that's exactly what we're doing here. Best number is on DraftKings right now, but make sure you shop this because things are fluctuating a bit here with still more than 24 hours to tip for game 3. But for JB, over 21.5 points, this should be at 23.5. It really should. You could put this at 24.5 if you wanted to. What I'm surprised at most of all is that Jaylen Brown is averaging 24.5 points per game in the playoffs and on the road or at home, both 24.5 points per game in both venues. And we're still seeing this at 21.5. Normally, the books by this point in the playoffs, they're just putting up what these guys' averages are as the prop because we have enough of a sample size to go, this is what he's doing over the course of his last 15 to 20 games. But we still get this at 21.5 somehow. Even at minus 120, there's still a really nice edge to the over for him, about a 30% chance, implied probability that he is going to easily go over this. So we're still really good on that. 5 of his last 6 road playoff games, which have all been in the playoffs here, 5 of the 6 that he's played on the road, gone over this number pretty comfortably. Like I said, averaging 24.5 in these moments and in the playoffs overall. And really, if you look at the matchups, he is cooking everybody who's not named PJ Washington. PJ is his primary defender, but there's so much fluidity in the matchups here in this series with so many great wings playing, so many good defenders that can switch between PJ Washington, Derrick Jones Jr., and the like. But PJ is the one that if he does not get switched off of Jaylen Brown, he's having success. Everybody else that Jaylen Brown is hunting, which I assure you, he's hunting other players as much as possible. He's getting them in a blender, especially Luka, who continues to get caught up on Jaylen Brown in these cross matches, meaning Jaylen Brown is guarding Luka on one end of the floor. When they run back on defense, if it's a transition play of any kind, Luka has no choice but to try to stay with the guy that he's closest to, which is Jaylen Brown, because he's guarding him on that end of the floor. So once he gets Luka, it's a done deal, right? And the last thing here is I really think there's some positive regression coming for JB because he had 21 in this last game, so just half a point shy, 1 point shy, obviously. But he went 1 for 5 from 3, his worst percentage in his last 10 games from deep, and 6 turnovers, meaning he didn't even get a shot off, 6 different possessions that he had the ball in his hands looking to make a play, right? So I think he'll continue to be aggressive. I mean, we all think that. There's no way that Jaylen Brown's going to start, shying away from shooting at this point. So at about 18 shots per game on the road right now, he's hitting 10 of those. So he's got a nice 55% field goal percentage when he's playing on the road. But the shots that he's taking are very quality looks. If you look at the percentage of his shots that are considered quality shots, according to QSI, the Quality Shot Index, he is getting about 65% of his shots as good looks. 4 of those 3-pointers were uncontested entirely. So he's going to have a lot more to say when it comes to the positive regression here on the threes. And as long as he doesn't turn the ball over an inordinate amount of time, by the way, he averages 2.5 turnovers in the playoffs. 6 was an anomaly. We're going to trust him to take better care of the ball and keep getting good shots to get at least 22 points in this one. How about another little parlay for minus 101? Basically even money here for us to take Luka 8+ boards, Tatum 8+ boards, plus Luka to hit those 3 threes that he's been hitting in the first half of games. So no fear on any of these bets. But the fact that I feel so confident in all 3 of these things happening and I still get even money, got to put a unit on that. Similar to the Luka bet, obviously the 8 rebounds, 3 threes for him, but we're taking out the 30 points and adding in the Tatum 8 boards. Tatum's gotten 8 boards in 14 of 16 playoff games. In fact, he's gotten 10 boards, 9 boards at least in 14 of these 16 playoff games, Luka, 8+ rebounds in 10 of his last 12. We're using that 12-game sample size because that's when he started to show that he was a lot less injured than he was against the Clippers in the very beginning of that OKC series. But really, since the OKC series, he's been on one and back into pretty much his full form. Like, I'm going to give him 85 to 90% health-wise, as opposed to some people who think that he wouldn't even be playing if this was the regular season. Not going to get into that, but he's clearly good enough now to get a ton of these boards. And both of these guys, we've talked about it a number of times now, they have really high rebound chance percentages, highest on their teams, and both 2 of the top 5 highest in the playoffs because of the fact that the other guys on their team are deferring and allowing them to get these boards. Neither of these guys have very many deferred rebound chances, meaning when they have the opportunity to pull down the rebound, they're grabbing it, and other guys on their team are letting them grab it because they want them to start the fast break. The two most dangerous guys running the fast break for both these teams. And for Luka on the threes, I told you how insanely accurate he's been. As long as and the volume, more importantly, he's averaging about 10 in his last 12 games in terms of the 3-point attempts, but he's taken at least 10 in all of the last 8 games as well. So he's comfortably going to get double-digit 3-point attempts at a 42.5% clip that he's hitting him. So he just needs to hit 30% of these threes that he's taking, or even a little bit worse, and we're still good on this one. So with the Stars really taking over as this series continues to trudge along, we're going to go back to both of these guys to help us get a minus 101 on our money for this little same game parlay. And let's close it out with something that I haven't been giving you guys. I've been playing it myself a lot closer to tip, but I want to make sure I put it out there for you now. Under 51.5 total fourth quarter points, minus 118 on DraftKings. This number is better than the 50.5 total that you'll get on FanDuel. So obviously still like it for minus 118 here. And this comes down to, this happened both the first 2 games. We saw 44 points in game 1, 46 in game 2. We had a 94 pace in game 2, by the way, in the fourth quarter, which was a little bit fast because this thing has been down at about 88 to 90 for a pace for the most part in the playoffs for both of these teams. It's really a matter of, is this going to be a close enough game? And in the blowouts have helped the fourth quarter go under because really one team, the Celtics, who is blowing out the Mavericks going into these fourth quarters, they really want to slow things down and just use up as much of the clock. But either way, the pace at 91 is about what I project here moving forward in these fourth quarters, which should be a little bit closer than the 21-point gap we saw in game 1 between these two teams. Last game, 9-point difference going into the fourth quarter, and that's why we saw most of the normal rotation minutes for everybody on both sides of the ball. Luka actually only played about 10 minutes, missed a couple minutes trying to get him some rest as he played most of the third quarter, but still going to get both of normal rotations. What it's mostly about, though, is everything slows down, everybody's buttholes pucker up. We know that. It's just like even the role players are not really willing to shoot quite as much in the fourth quarters, meaning it's a lot more on the Stars to carry the offense, which means you're going to get a few more looks that aren't quite as quality as if they're just running the flow of the offense. It's a lot more Luka or Kyrie are taking every shot in the fourth quarter, which tends to weigh on these guys, right? Dallas is also playing at least one center in the fourth quarter moving forward, which is huge. I expect them to continue that as well, which obviously helps their rim protection, helps them to make sure that everything stays slow, to be honest, because of the fact that they've got a center in there, not as fluid or as versatile of an offense. And finally, this is the finals. Like I said, everything puckers up. And if you look at the last 2 finals, one of which included Boston against Golden State, we're talking about 48 points per game in the fourth quarter. So of all the fourth quarters that we've seen in the last 2 NBA finals, I believe we're up 82% now with both of these games. 82% of them have gone under overall and under 50 points as well. So the fact that we're still getting 51.5 as the number here, that's an easy under for us in the fourth quarter, as things really are only going to get tighter and slower as we go through the rest of this NBA finals. That is all the time that I have for you guys for these early looks at Game 3. Always a reminder, we're going to be back with the live stream 5 p.m. Eastern time here on Wednesday. That we'll be looking at all the Game 3 stuff here, props, a few sides and totals, but mostly we go through every single player prop. You guys bring the bets you want to look at. Jump in the comments. We go through that stuff together with a guest as well, so we can make sure we get as many angles and looks on this stuff as possible. Also, a quick reminder about Outlier. Definitely want to jump in there. In the description of the video is the link for Outlier. So you can get 7 free days of trying this out. See if you like it. It's really become the home base, right, for the live stream that we do at 5 p.m. Eastern every day that we do it, as I'm looking at everything using this program. Also got the Discord up where we're getting plenty of good looks for W and NBA stuff moving forward. So definitely jump in there if you want, free for right now. Got a lot of good smart bettors in there helping me find angles, as well as, jumping in and looking at the stuff that I have to bring a little bit early if you are in the Discord. So make sure you check that link out as well, which is in the description of the video. I'll see you guys 5 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday. I'll also be seeing you with that WNBA picks and projections video for Wednesday's slate. So make sure you are subscribed to that page. And until I see you next, happy betting.